Howdy, folks. I'm James Talley. Welcome to the Rusty Fence Post Podcast, an all breed podcast where we talk about everything dogs. Today, I'm joined by Sierra Combs with NoSam Kennels. Welcome to the podcast, Sierra.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining today. It's kind of funny how we met a year or so back. You had a buyer that had tried to buy from you, then tried to buy from me, and uh, we kind of we've developed a friendship out of that, and I'm glad to have you on the show today. Uh, I've always been interested in the Vizsla and the Bracco, and of course the German Shorthaired Pointer. I've owned the point GSP, and uh, I really admire the program that you have and the way that you run it. Uh, my first question for you is, you know, did you grow up around dogs or hunting dogs? How did you get involved with working dogs?
So I did have dogs growing up. We weren't a huge dog family. We had little breeds, Chihuahuas, miniature Schnauzer, Chinese Crusteds, a few mixed breeds. My parents didn't breed or anything like that. We weren't like hunting people or anything, but I did have cousins that hunted beagles and coonhounds and things like that. And a funny story with that is actually I think I was maybe 12, and my cousin had just got a beagle puppy from a family friend that actually bred and raised beagles, and he was really big into it with the hunting. And I believe he may have did field stuff like field trials or something. I'm not sure. Um, but I got super excited, and I really, really, really wanted one. And I remember being told, these are hunting dogs, not pets, so you can't have one. And I was like, well, nobody asked me if I wanted to hunt. Um, and I was very interested in that kind of stuff very early on. I always wanted to do it. I saw my cousins, they were all boys and they were always doing that kind of stuff. And I really wanted to be a part of it, but never got invited. But kind of funny story reflecting on that today. I'm the only one in the family that breeds hunting dogs and still does that kind of stuff.
That's
So
per- that's pretty wild.
yeah, so never tell a girl that she can't have a hunting dog because if the desire is there, she will definitely find one and figure out how to train it.
Exactly. Showing the guys how it's done. That's pretty cool. I know you have a couple different breeds in your kennel, the GSP, the Vizsla, and I know you have one Bracco. Can you give me a little bit of history on the breeds and that type of thing?
Yeah, so the Vizslas were brought here, or not here, to Hungary by the Magyars, and they were bred to be pointers and retrievers. Um, in the 19th century, they actually almost went extinct. Um, They were brought over here in the 50s and they were recognized by AKC in 1960. They were actually the first breed ever in AKC to earn a championship in 5 different sports, which is kind of amazing to think about. Most dogs only earn one championship, let alone, five. Um, and that's kind of why we call them versatile Vizslas, because if you really put in the work and train them, you can teach them to do anything. And then, of course, the GSP, you know a lot about that breed, but they came from Germany. They were looking for a dog that could pretty much hunt anything and everything. And they wanted them to be able to retrieve it on land and water. They date back to before the 17th century. Um, and they were entered into AKC in 1930, and they're just pretty much a all around hunting breed, and they can pretty much hunt anything that you really train them to. And they really put their full effort into it. um the Bronco, I'm still learning a lot about those. I honestly got to do a little more research and things and study them. I just have one right now training her. I'm not sure if I'm gonna breed her or not. Just really depends if I click with the breed and it's something that I want to really pursue later. But they're basically an Italian pointing breed. Um, they don't really run like the Vizsla and GSP. They kind of trot. It's kind of funny to watch. It's totally different than the way Vizsla or GSP works the field, but they're a very interesting breed, and they kind of look like hounds, and they have very goofy personality.
So are those breeds relatively pretty? Are they pretty healthy breeds?
Yeah, I mean, obviously hip dysplasia is a concern with all three. That's a reason you want to look for somebody that does OFA or pin hip testing on the hips. Um, the GSP can have several different issues with that you need to test for with DNA, cardiac, elbows, that kind of stuff. The Vizsla, the thyroid, eyes, are kind of important things to test for with those. Generally, they're very healthy. Just obviously, you want to look for somebody that has eliminated most of those issues that you can test for within the breed.
Right. So what made you choose those breeds? What characteristics out of those dogs made you know kind of help make the decision for you to add those dogs to your kennel?
Well, actually, the Vizsla was kind of an accident. We weren't really looking at the time to even breed dogs or get into breeding. I always said that it was something I was interested in, but I wouldn't do it unless the right breed came along and it was something that I just absolutely loved. Um, our first Vizsla actually, Alex and I were about to get married. I think it was March, and we got married in June. And we were prepping our house and stuff to get ready to move into it. His parents actually lived next door, and his grandpa lived right down the road. And somebody actually dropped a black lab in a Vizsla, and his parents ended up adopting the lab. We took in the Vizsla, couldn't find owner or anything like that. He was definitely a purebred Vizsla. He did have hip dysplasia and stuff already, and I think he was probably only 3 years old at the time. Um, but we really fell in love with him. We were super active already as it is. Alex already hunted and that kind of stuff. And he just really meshed with our personalities and stuff. Um, so we had him for a little while. We decided to get into breeding them because we absolutely loved him. We didn't breed him, of course. We had him neutered and stuff because he didn't have papers, but we bought our first two females and kind of jumped into it. And the GSP honestly was the same way. It wasn't something that we really forced. I started training after we got our first Vizsla that we hunt tested and stuff. And I started doing it on the side for free. I wasn't charging anybody, just to learn really how to train and get experience with different dog breeds and stuff. And we had two GSPs sit to us for training, Mabel and Scarlet. I had taken them and actually got their junior hunter titles and everything. Their owner kind of went through some hard times and he couldn't keep them. And we had already really bonded with them. And again, we've already taken them, gotten their junior hunter. We put in all this work training them. So we actually offered to buy both of those dogs from him. And that's kind of how the GSPs got started. And then the Baracco was kind of the same way. So I feel like with our program, everything has really just fallen into place because it's been meant to be. I feel like if you have a breed and you're gonna breed it, it kind of should be that way. You shouldn't just be like, oh, I want to breed dogs and just look for a random breed. If you're really passionate about it, the right breed's gonna come along.
That makes complete sense. When you started up breeding, did you have a mentor that kind of guided you along the way, or did you just kind of figure it out as you went?
I did it when I started. We kind of jumped into it feet first. Definitely don't recommend that way. There was a lot of stuff that we didn't do correctly that if I could change things, I would have done it differently, but we didn't know any better. We were really trying to learn. I did reach out to people to try to get mentors, but I guess I was young and didn't know what questions to ask and things like that. I did for a while work with another breeder. I wouldn't really say it was a mentorship because I learned a lot of what not to do. um, but I mean, I did also learn a lot of things about raising puppies and things like that. I just didn't learn the hunting and health testing and that kind of side of it.
So uh my next question was, how long has your kennel been in operation, and since you've, uh since you've opened up your kennel and you've been very successful, obviously, have you had any folks that you've mentored along the way?
So we've been doing it about 8 years. We've had Vizslas for 10 years. Basically, as long as we've been married, we've had Vizslas. Um, and then, of course, the first couple of years, like I said, I worked with a different breeder for a while to kind of establish what I was doing as far as breeding goes. Um, I have mentored a couple people and worked with a few other people. I wouldn't say with Vizslas or anything like that, it was other breeds, but I've given them advice and things like that. I've had a few people buy dogs from me for breeding, but so far to date, they haven't really met the health testing and title requirements to earn full registration.
Yes, ma'am, that makes complete sense. uh let's see. I know you put some emphasis a while ago when you were describing your breeds on health testing. Uh, why do you feel that field and health testing is so important in your breeds?
Well, health testing, you want to decrease the chances of health issues with your puppies. Obviously, it's not gonna um, eliminate every single possible issue because there's not a test out there for every possible issue that could pop up in a dog, but it does decrease it. And we're selling dogs to people. They're gonna have these dogs for 15 years. Um, my first Vizsla had hip dysplasia, and unfortunately, he didn't live as long as the life expectancy for a Vizsla should be. And it's pretty heartbreaking when you get attached to a dog like that and then it doesn't even live the full lifespan that you expected. So really, I feel like that's why health testing is important to me, because you want to decrease the possible risks of having health issues within the breed. And a lot of people complain about the price of well bred dogs, but you might save a little bit of money up front when you buy a cheap puppy, but in the long run, you're going to pay for that later with health issues. So you're better off to just spend it up front and buy some from somebody that has actually tried to make sure the breed's healthy. And that's really why I feel it's important, just because I want to send my puppies home to be as healthy as possible. Um, and then field work, I think it's important because if you're going to breed dogs, you should do something with them other than just breeding, whether that's field work. If you have a herding breed, you might do agility or even, working on cows or sheep or something like that. But it shows that we're doing something other than just breeding our dogs to produce puppies. Um, we do dock diving and things like that too, but the field is our main focus because they are bird dogs and that's what they were bred to do. Um, and it really just proves that our dogs are easy to be trained, they're easy to socialize, and they have the natural ability to hunt like the breed should. Um, if you're just breeding pets, your dogs never leave your house, and how can you really judge their temperament around new things and new places? In hunt tests, your dogs are being exposed to horses or side by sides, a strange person. Your dog has to go out there and hunt in AKC with a dog they've never met. And that right there is a lot, because if your dog is dog aggressive, then obviously it's not going to be able to share a field with another dog. Um, and you have guns going off and that kind of stuff. So you really have to have a dog that wants to work for you and wants to be easy to train. So even if you're looking for a pet, I can't see why you wouldn't want those qualities, even if you don't plan to hunt your dog. And I really think it just shows that you have a commitment to your breed and that you're trying to produce better dogs. And you're not being kennel blind, so to speak, because you are evaluating your dogs in a test situation. And it really helps show your strengths and weaknesses within your program, what you can improve on. And if you love a breed, you love them because of the qualities that they were naturally bred to have. And if you take away those qualities, it's really not that breed anymore. So you should expect when you buy a puppy for your puppy to look, act, and think exactly the way the breed was bred to do. People that are just breeding pets, they aren't really going to evaluate their dog's strengths and weaknesses without being biased, because those dogs are their pets, and they love them. And they're just producing pet puppies, and they don't really care. It doesn't really matter to them whether the dog acts the way it's supposed to in the field, or is easy to train and socialize. That kind of stuff doesn't matter to people who are just producing pets.
That makes that I've seen that a lot here as well. I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think that's probably the majority of people. If people know enough about pedigrees, and they know how to read them and study them, if they know enough about a pedigree, they from what I've seen on my end, people think, well, I spent $1,500 to $2,000 on a dog, and then they immediately want to breed it without knowing what it's going to bring to the table. So those are all excellent points.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't start out exactly on the right foot. I wish I would have started out competing and training and that kind of stuff to begin with, but I'll tell you what, just doing hunt tests, I have really been able to improve my program. I've really been able to evaluate my dogs and see what I need to add and change and bring to the table, as far as not only behavior, but just ability and things like that. And I feel like if you're not doing something with your dogs, you just really cannot evaluate what you're producing.
Well, and when I got to know you and kind of saw how you ran your program, that was one of the contributing factors as to why I wanted to hide to go to you, because I knew that you would do right by him. And uh, uh you know I know when when I ask you how he's doing, you've kind of uh I know that you call dogs out of your program if they don't meet a certain standard. And when I want to put emphasis on, when I say cull, I don't mean take them behind the barn and shoot them. I mean rehome.
Yeah.
There's different terminologies for cull, but I think that's awesome that if you have a dog that doesn't meet your standard, that you don't breed them just to breed them. I think that's the way it should be done, and that's very commendable.
Yeah. And I also look at the whole dog too, not just the pedigree, because a lot of people get stuck on pedigree and they're like, well, it doesn't have this pedigree. Well, you have to also look at the dog in front of you. Not everybody starts with the perfect pedigree. That's everybody's ideal situation, is to start with the absolute best pedigrees, but not everybody gets that lucky or starts out that way. And you know you really have to look at the dog in front of you as well. If they're healthy, they they do what they're supposed to, they have a good temperament, and they hunt, they meet the breed standard. You have to kind of look at that as well, not just what's behind the dog, but also what the dog is and can produce.
Exactly. So I know this year that you achieved the AKC Breeder of Merit uh, award in your program, and I know that's a pretty big deal for a breeder. What does that mean to you as a breeder?
So every year I actually set goals for my breeding program, and just kind of myself, and I feel like that really helps me to push forward and um better my program and just do better, training my dogs and things like that. And once I started competing, the breeder of merit was really a big goal for me. COVID actually held me back a year. I would have had it a lot sooner, but we couldn't compete because everything got closed down. But I think that it just really shows that we put in the work, and I think it separates the people that are just breeding to produce puppies from those that are serious about the breed, because you have to not only earn X amount of titles, but you also have to do health testing and things like that. And it just shows that we're going the extra step with our program, and that we're really trying to do the best we can by our dogs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know why you came up with your kennel name, but just how did I think it's pretty cool that how you came up with your kennel name, but why don't you give us a little back history on that?
All right, so when we decided that we were gonna breed, pretty much every single name that we could think of was taken. Because there's a lot of kennels out there. There's a lot of hunting kennels. A lot of the catchy hunting names were already taken. So we actually decided to call it Mason Kennels, and then I realized that there's a company that makes kennels called Mason Kennels, and I was like, well, we can't do that. But I already really had my heart set on calling it Mason Kennels because that's my son's name. And what is better than combining the two things that you love more than anything, your child and your dogs. um, so I got online and started kind of researching how people came up with their kennel names, and I saw some people combine names, and a couple people said they did their name backwards and it made a really cool name. Um, so combining my name and Alex's name didn't really make sense. So we decided to just use Mason backwards, and so it's NoSam. It's kind of catchy. Nobody else really has that name. It's not really a word, so I mean, it's something that sticks in your mind and you remember it. So, and that was kind of the point.
Exactly.
If you go with like Green River Kennel or something like that, that's really a location type name, and you move, then you can't really take that name with you because then it's not going to make sense somewhere else. So we just wanted something that people would remember.
That's really cool. Oh, if somebody within your state or within the lower 48, or even I don't know if you export dogs or not, but even somebody outside the country, the United States, if they were interested in what you had to offer, whether that's training or puppies, what is one thing you would want people to know about you as a trainer and breeder? What would be the most important thing to you that they know?
Um, Probably that we are here for pretty much anything that you could need us for. Whether that's, a question about your puppy, or just training support with your puppy. Or if you bring your dog out and you train it, if you need to know something, if we can help you, we will definitely try our best to figure it out. If I don't have the answer, I'll find it for you. I will call whoever I have to and ask them questions to get you an answer. And as far as training goes, when you come out, we're super thorough. We take you out in the field. We go over everything. So even if your dog's been trained by us 6 years ago and you have a question, we're happy to answer it. And same with our puppies. We're really big on relationships with our buyers. I don't just sell puppies and not want to hear from you again. We I mean, I don't expect updates, every day, or you to call and tell me everything that your dog's done this week, but we want to hear about your dogs and their accomplishments, and you're really a part of our family when you buy a puppy, or even get training. And that's really something that I'm big on, is just support.
That's awesome. Yeah, and when you buy puppies from somebody, a good breeder is always going to do that, and you don't always get that for sure. So
Yeah.
that, that's awesome. Uh, as a trainer and breeder, what do you believe within your program are your strengths and weaknesses?
I think my strength is that I have put in the work for everything that I've done. So, my breeder of merit, every dog that I titled to earn that, I did it myself. I didn't send dogs off to a trainer and pay them to train the dogs. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Just, we went the extra mile to learn how to train hunting dogs. Again, neither of us came from families that did that kind of stuff. We didn't start out with a mentor, My first Vizsla that I bought with a big field pedigree, his breeder really did help us a lot over the phone and things like that. And we watched a lot of YouTube videos and things, but we really put in the work to earn every single dog that we titled for that. I took dogs back from customers for free. I bought birds, I brought them out here, I trained them, and I handled every dog for that within the hunt test to earn that breeder merit. So I think that's my strength is that, we really are committed and we put in the work. I think my biggest weakness really is I didn't start out with a mentor. I think that would have made things a lot better. I think I would have learned a lot of stuff a lot faster, and not made mistakes and things like that. But obviously, I'm human. Everybody does things differently, and you can only learn by doing a lot of times. And the best thing you can do is just learn and do better. And another weakness really is experience. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years, but I'm always learning. There's more to learn. And, I don't have 30 years experience yet. It'll come, but, the more experience I get, the more I'm going to learn. So, I think that's a big weakness for me is that I haven't been doing it as long as some other people.
Yes, yes, ma'am. I understand that. Uh, you kind of touch base on you being there for your buyers, and uh, if somebody wants to AKC junior hunt test a puppy or NAB to test a puppy, I know I know you're there for support. Do you? I think one thing that I've kind of encountered is through my program is, uh, you have some people who are committed to it, and you have some folks who may be half-hearted and they show up, but they kind of want you to do more of the work than they want to put in. Do you ever? I'm just, do you ever encounter anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have, and whenever I first started, I didn't have a lot of dogs that were titled and things like that. So a lot of our buyers were pet people and they weren't really interested in doing that kind of stuff. So I kind of had to be like, hey, I need dogs to come back to me so I can evaluate them for hunting and things like that. So I felt like I had to put in a little more effort because a lot of my first buyers were pet people. They weren't hunting people. But I think every program, has people who say they want to do stuff and then they get the dog and they don't do it. But I do really encourage people to try to be active with their dog, even if it's not hunting, dock diving, obedience, just something, because that really helps give us feedback on our dogs and things like that. Um, Without buyers' perspective, we can't really better our breed. So,
Exactly. Uh, let's see. I know you do. I know you participate in dock diving. Is that something you just do to give your dog something to do throughout the year, to help with conditioning? Uh, what kind of drew you to dock diving?
actually, I watched them do it at a state fair one year. I don't think it was an NADD, but it was like a bunch of people with labs and they were doing dock diving. Um, and I remember, so my mom actually used to work at the state fair when we lived in West Virginia. So I pretty much was at the fair every day during the summer. So I would just go watch all the free shows and stuff and keep myself entertained. And they actually had dock diving there and I watched it and thought it was awesome. Again, when I was younger, I was a huge dog nerd. I wanted to do everything possible with dog sports. I never got to, but I was the kid that was out there pretending to show their dog that was probably not show quality, but that's what I did in my free time in the backyard. I would get a leash and pretend I was showing my dog. Um, so I was always interested in dog sports. We moved here about 3 years ago. We didn't really have a lot of water access where we were at in West Virginia, so we didn't do a lot of water work with our dogs. And my friend here in Kentucky actually invited us to the lake, and we have a dock out there. It's actually pretty good size, so you can really practice dock diving on it. And we went to the lake with one of our first German short hairs, and I was just jokingly like, "Hey, let's throw this off there and see if the dog will jump off after it." And he did. He had a pretty good water entry. Um, and then after we did that a few times, I decided to come home, got on the internet, found a event close to us. There's actually a guy who has a pool. He's about an hour from here, so we rent the pool pretty often now and go. But we entered that dog in our first dock diving competition, and he actually got his dock master in like 2 weekends. He got a few passes towards his elite, but unfortunately, we ended up having to retire him from our breeding program because he had a lot of issues with fertility and things like that. So he's a pet now. But that's kind of how we got started in it. I don't really do it for the competitive side of it. I just do it to have fun. It's something that I can do in the off season. You know, there's not hunt tests and field trials and things like that in summertime. There is, but not in this location. You'd have to drive pretty far. So it just gave me a way to bond with my dogs more and do something that they would enjoy, that I would enjoy. Um, and it also really shows that our dogs not only will hunt birds, but you can also take them to the lake and they'll swim and go after a bumper and they're willing to work for you.
Exactly. And they can earn titles through the dock diving competitions, can't they?
Yeah, so with NADD, you can actually register your dog with NADD, and once they get a title, you can actually submit it to AKC, and AKC does accept their awards there too. So you can actually put that on your dog's pedigree.
That's awesome. Sierra, I know you touch base on, that you've been in doing this about 10 years. Is there anybody out there that excuse me, that you admire, or you kind of follow their programs? You know, I know they wouldn't be a mentor, but somebody that you kind of look up to in the bird dog world.
There's actually several different people that I follow and look up to. I don't know if I could name any one person specifically because there's just so many other breeders out there that are really great breeders and they have amazing programs and you know their dogs are titled to really high level competition, like they have VCs or master hunters and things like that. So there's just a lot of different people that I look up to, honestly. And like I said, I don't think I could really name one specific person.
Right. Uh, I know you NAVDA test and you AKC hunt test your dogs. Out of the two organizations, is there one you prefer more one over the other, or uh
I actually don't have a preference. I think that both testing systems are really awesome and it really gives you a chance to evaluate your dog. I think there's pros and cons to both. If I was going to say, for AKC, for example, I think the negative thing for that is, you have to take junior hunter 4 times, senior hunter 5 times, and master hunter 6. Unless you get the previous title, then I think it knocks like one of the legs off there that you have to achieve. Um, and with that, when you're entering your dog in 4, 5, 6 tests, they can really create some bad habits if the birds don't fly good that day and your dog's catching birds. If your dog's getting out there and playing with the other dog or they're not listening. A good example, if your brace mate is hacking at their dog a lot, then you have to really go home and correct a lot of things that could pop up in hunt tests that you have no control over because you don't have an e-collar on your dog. Once you turn them loose, it's really about the training that you put in, and sometimes your dog can have a bad day and still not listen even if they know everything. So I think that's really the con for AKC. Versus Navda, you can go in one weekend, have it done, and you don't have to go out there again and expose your dog to the possibility of making mistakes. um, when you go hunting or you're training, you can have an e-collar and you can really correct your dog versus you can't do that in a test. And then also with AKC, the brace mate situation makes things a little complicated at times. I've ran with people that really just sit there and screamed at their dog, and my dogs aren't used to being hacked at. When I take my dogs out training, I shut up. If I cannot give a command and enforce it, then I'm not going to sit there and scream at my dog to listen to me. So that's a huge problem with AKC. And then the other dog that you're running with, master hunter, your dog has to honor the other dog working. And if, the other dog takes 10 minutes to find their shot bird, your dog's standing there for 10 minutes waiting for them to be finished. And that can really put a lot of stress on the situation of, your dog standing there and honoring for 10 minutes. So I think that's really the negative of AKC. And then I would say Navda, I wouldn't really say it's a negative, but your dog ages out, so you only have X amount of time to get training and all that stuff done. And then getting into a test, if you can get into a test, a lot of the tests fill up really quickly too. So you have to really prepare for that in advance. And secure your spot early on. And if your dog, some dogs, if they're born at the wrong time of the year, it's hard to get water work done because it gets cold, or you may not be able to get a lot of birds, things like that. So it's a little more pressure to get that training done before. I know it's a natural ability test, so the dog has to do a lot of stuff without a ton of training, and that's the whole point of the cutoff time. But it does make it a little stressful to make sure that you have birds and that you have the water work done, and that you can get into a test in time versus AKC. There's not really a time limit.
Right. I know, a few years ago in our local chapter, it wasn't too stressful to, if you wanted to test, you could test. And just like you said, now it's, uh, well, one of the Texas chapters hasn't been doing a whole lot. So, our local chapter has gotten super, it's hard to get in. You got to really pay attention to test date announcements and stuff like that, and get your entries in if you want
Yeah.
to
Um,
join. So
the two dogs that I'm getting ready to run in Navda, I actually paid for their test entry fees like last winter. So versus AKC, I can send in my check for the hunt test, a week before and usually get a spot. So I think that's really, it's not a negative thing because it's great that there's that many people doing stuff with their dogs, but it does make it a little stressful that you have the time limit.
right, for sure. Do you participate in any kind of confirmation shows, or are you guys just doing field stuff?
I do the international stuff for fun. It's so you have an AKC judge, and then there's two judges that are from overseas, different locations. And I like it. I know it's not like a serious thing like AKC confirmation, but they actually give you a written critique about your dog so you can really see what your dog needs, you know, how to breed your dog to better it, I guess, so to speak. So like if they feel like your dog has a weak top line or the tail set's not off or something, not proper or something like that, they actually tell you this stuff versus AKC, they just point to a winner. So and it's nice to have that second opinion on your dog's confirmation. I really just do it at this point for fun and to kind of get experience handling dogs and things like that. I have not done AKC confirmation. I would eventually maybe like to, but I feel like I'm not totally ready for that yet. Um, but I enjoy the international shows, and if you're not going to be doing AKC confirmation and you want an evaluation on your dog, it's definitely a good place to go. I mean, one of the judges is an AKC judge, so it definitely helps to have an opinion on what you could do better.
For sure. Uh, I know earlier you kind of mentioned, when that Alex hunts, and that, y'all kind of fell in love with y'all's first Vizsla. is y'all's breeding and training program, is it a family affair? Does Alex and Mason help you with training?
Yeah, so we pretty much live and breathe the dogs. And he helps with every aspect of it. He cleans up dog poop, he helps train dogs, he helps take care of puppies, he helps educate buyers, he does pickups. If somebody's out here picking their dog up from training, he's out there helping me show them how to continue the training with their dogs. So really it's definitely a family thing. Mason just turned 8, so he's just now old enough to really start doing more with the dogs as far as like hunt testing. I think this year he can actually run dogs and hunt test with AKC. Um, Not sure if he's really ready for that yet, but he's getting there. He does help us some, not all the time. But we get him out there and he's super involved with the dogs and he enjoys it. He goes hunting with us. So my family actually lives out of state, so we don't really have a babysitter. So if we're out there doing something with the dogs, he's usually with us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. If somebody came to you and said, I'm really always wanted to be a dog breeder. I want to get involved in the dog industry. Uh, what piece of advice would you give to somebody if they were wanting to become a breeder? What do you feel like would be the most important advice you piece of advice you could give them?
Find the right breed for you. Don't just go out and pick a breed because you think they're pretty or they're cute or something like that. You really need to look for a breed that you have the passion to breed. Again, if you're just going to go out there and pick a random breed and be like, oh, I want to make cute puppies, that's probably not the best decision as far as breeding goes. You definitely want to find a breed that fits your lifestyle. You have to live with this breed. You're going to have more than one. So it needs to be a breed that you enjoy and study the breed, put your hands on as many as you can. If you can get another breeder to let you come work with them, definitely take the opportunity. Be willing to learn and listen. I think that's a big thing with a lot of new breeders is they study and stuff on the internet and then they think they know everything and they don't want to listen and take advice of other people. I'm always open to people giving me advice. I'll try to listen to it and, put it towards my program the best I can within reason. Um, and I think um, just learn everything you can about the breed and make sure that that's really the breed that you want to stick with because you're going to be putting a lot of time into it. And another thing too is if you can go get hands on with puppies and raising puppies and things like that. A lot of people think they want to be breeders until comes time to clean up puppy poop and it's a lot of work, it's messy and you have to kind of be tough. You can't take everything to heart. There's always somebody out there that thinks that you can do better. Everybody always has an opinion and you know, when you breed your dog, you're putting your female at risk. They could die. You could lose the entire litter. Um, Things go wrong. So, and it's very expensive. So, don't go into it expecting to cut corners because if you do, then you're not going to be doing right by your dogs. And, um, eventually it's going to catch up with you. Your customers aren't going to be happy if you're not health testing and you're producing a lot of health issues and things like that. So, I really think you just have to have a passion for it. I don't think everybody's cut out to be a breeder. Um, and it's something that you really need to make sure that you want to do before you do it.
That's awesome. That's something that's when I had people ask me about it, the piece of advice I always give was pretty much spot on everything you just said. And I always told them, make sure you have an oh shit fund, pardon my language,
Yeah.
because sooner or later, if you do it long enough, no matter how well you do it or whatever precautions you take, something's always going to come up and you better have some money set back for that because if you don't, you could potentially lose a female, or like you said, a whole litter of puppies. So
Yeah, so um yeah, and I mean, or you could even end up having to refund a whole litter of buyers. So if they have deposits and stuff down. So don't think that, this is something you're going to get into to make a ton of money. It's not a super profitable thing. You really do it because you love it. If you're in it just to make money, you're probably in it for the wrong reasons.
exactly. With your the three working breeds, well, I know you're not breeding Broncos, but you have a female, but uh I know these your breeds work hard for you. Do you have any kind of conditioning program for your dogs, or do you pretty much just but they're getting what they need through your training and everything with for hunt testing, hunting? Do y'all have any kind of conditioning program? And I know nutrition is obviously important. What do you feed your dogs?
So we were feeding Victor, but we're actually waiting on a pallet of the Inukshuk. Am I saying that right? It's supposed to show up today, so we're gonna be trying that. I'm super excited to give it a try. But as far as conditioning, we do, I guess, we don't really have a program that we follow or anything like that, but our dogs get free ran every day. We have 50 acres. So we let them out in groups and we let them run all around the farm and free exercise at their will. We don't force them to run. They run as much as they want for as long as they want. We do have a pond. We take them swimming, and then we also have a lake really close by. In the summertime, we try to go to the lake once a week so that our dogs are swimming and in condition to do that kind of stuff. Where we hunt, there's not usually a lot of water, so we don't end up shooting birds and they have to swim. But it's swimming's really good for their joints and it keeps them fit and they enjoy doing it. So we try to do that once a week. And then like I said, just free running. And we have horses. Sometimes I'll hop on the horse and let the dogs run with me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was going through some pictures last night that you had posted, and I saw that. Well, I think I actually saw. Well, I saw it once on your Facebook, but I saw that picture of Hyde in the tub with next to the horse, and that really made me laugh.
Yeah.
That was funny. Uh, he's such a good dog. Uh, in ending with our uh show, I just uh what are you most proud of as a breeder and trainer? I know you probably kind of touched base on that a while ago, but uh you've put in a lot of years of work. You've had some great accomplishments with you know titling your dogs and just the AKC breeder of merit. What are you most proud of?
I think it would have to be watching dogs that I produced and raised from teeny tiny puppies grow up and do what they're bred to do and do it well. And even, watch them bring happiness and joy to families that get them from us. I think that is the thing that makes me most proud. That and just that we have so much passion for the dogs we breed and we really want to see them do well, not only in pet homes but also hunting homes. And I think that that's really the thing that makes me the most proud is just really seeing my work, um, show up in future generations of dogs that I produce.
That's awesome. Sierra, it's been great having you on the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be with us and just to talk about your program. It's greatly appreciated, and I thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, if you want more information on Sierra and NoSam Kennels, you can find them on Instagram and Facebook at NoSam Kennels and www.nosamkennels.com. Uh, Again, thanks, Sierra. We appreciate your time, and you have a great day.
You too.